Hello, miladies of inestimable value. In a world that rewards conformity, those who refuse to fit in become the targets of those too afraid to stand out. Sigma females are the ultimate outliers, women who don't just march to the beat of their own drum, but create an entirely new rhythm that others can't quite follow. They don't fit into any mold, and that's precisely why they're so misunderstood and, let's be honest, so deeply resented. This isn't just casual dislike, it's a visceral, almost instinctual hatred that goes beyond mere personality clashes. What is it about Sigma females that makes them such lightning rods for envy and animosity? Why do they inspire a level of disdain that others can't even begin to comprehend? The answer lies in the very things that make them who they are, things that challenge, disrupt, and unsettle the comfortable illusions society clings to. And that's where their power lies. Now let's discuss this, shall we? Number 1. Role of misfit as a mirror. When a Sigma female steps into any room, she's not just another person in the crowd, she's a walking, talking mirror that reflects back everything people don't want to see about themselves. It's like she has this supernatural ability to bring out the uncomfortable truths others have buried deep within. Everyone's carefully constructed facades start to crack under her gaze. And the worst part? She doesn't even have to say a word to make it happen. Her very existence is a silent challenge, forcing people to face the things they've been avoiding for years. She embodies all the qualities others secretly wish they had, but are too scared to develop: independence, authenticity, and a zero-tolerance policy for bullshit. So what do? They project their insecurities onto her, labeling her as difficult or aloof, when in reality, they're just scared to death of the self-reflection she unintentionally forces upon them. Instead of appreciating the brutal honesty she represents, they lash out, because it's easier to hate someone for being a mirror than to confront the flaws staring back at them. Her presence alone turns people's comfort zones into pressure cookers, leaving them simmering in their own self-doubt. And the best part? She's not even trying to stir the pot, it just happens naturally. She's the kind of person who, by merely existing, challenges the status quo and makes everyone around her deeply uncomfortable with how comfortable she is in her own skin. So, the hatred isn't really about her, it's about what she unintentionally reveals. But hey, if you can't stand the reflection, maybe it's time to change the mirror, right? Number 2. Sigma. Females are upfront about their intentions from the start. Sigma females don't believe in playing games or leading anyone on. They're upfront about their intentions from the get-go, and that's something most people can't handle. In a world where everyone seems to be dodging directness like it's the plague, Sigma females are out here making bold moves with the confidence of someone who doesn't have time for nonsense. They say exactly what they mean. No sugarcoating, no hidden agendas, and definitely no mind games. This kind of brutal honesty is both refreshing and terrifying to people who are used to dealing with layers of pretense. It's like she's holding up a bright neon sign that says, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." And let's be real. Most people aren't ready to deal with that kind of clarity. They're so accustomed to reading between the lines and second-guessing intentions that when someone lays it all out with such confidence, it's like a jolt to the system. So what happens? They either admire her for her straightforwardness, or more often, despise her because she's making them question why they're still stuck in the murky waters of half-truths and mixed signals. It's easier to hate someone for being direct when you're terrified of being the same. Her approach shakes up the social dynamic, making it crystal clear who's comfortable with themselves and who's still hiding behind a facade. But for a Sigma female, there's no time for that. It's either real or it's nothing. And that kind of authenticity? It's rare, and people often hate what they can't replicate. Number 3. Disruption of social capital. Sigma females don't just opt out of the social hierarchy. They dismantle it by simply refusing to play along. In a world that thrives on networking, social cliques, and ladder climbing, they're the ones who stroll past the crowd without even acknowledging the ladder's existence. Their refusal to engage in the typical power plays disrupts the very fabric of social capital, where who you know and how well you schmooze dictates your standing. For them, it's not about collecting people as assets or playing nice just to get ahead. It's about staying true to themselves, even if that means shaking up the status quo. This disruption causes a ripple effect, making people who rely on these unspoken rules incredibly uncomfortable. Suddenly, the social currency they've been banking on loses value because a Sigma female has entered the scene and shown that you don't need to buy into the system to succeed. She's like that person who refuses to participate in the office gossip, but somehow still knows everything that's going on, leaving everyone else scrambling to figure out how she does it. The discomfort comes from a deep-rooted fear that if more people adopted her approach, the entire social order might collapse. People who've spent years carefully crafting their social networks feel threatened, as if she's walking around with a giant reset button and she's not afraid to use it. This is why they harbor such intense resentment toward her. They can't control or predict her, and in a society built on mutual back-scratching and favor trading, that makes her a wild card, one that many would rather hate than try to understand. Number 4. Perceived arrogance or having pride. Sigma females walk around with a level of confidence that's often mistaken for arrogance. But let's be clear, it's not that they think they're better than everyone else. They just don't see the point in pretending to be anything less than who they are. This unapologetic self-assurance drives people nuts because, in a world where everyone's busy downplaying their strengths or fishing for compliments, a Sigma female's quiet pride stands out like a lighthouse in a fog of insecurity. People are used to false modesty, the kind where someone's fishing for validation with a, "Oh, I'm not that great," just to hear someone else say, "No, really you are." Sigma females, they skip the bait entirely. They don't need external validation because they've already given it to themselves. And that's where the real problem lies. When you're completely at peace with who you are, you don't play into the social charades that make others feel good about themselves. You don't downplay your abilities to make others feel more comfortable. And for many, that's a bitter pill to swallow. This is where the perceived arrogance comes in. It's not that they're strutting around thinking they're above everyone else. It's that they refuse to diminish themselves to fit into someone else's comfort zone. They have pride, yes, but it's the kind of pride that doesn't need to be flaunted. It just exists. And because it's so genuine, it threatens those who rely on external validation for their sense of self-worth. So what do people do? They slap a label on it, arrogance, because it's easier to criticize someone for being confident than it is to admit that you're intimidated by it. Number 5. Promotion of existential anxiety. Sigma females have this uncanny ability to make people uncomfortable without even trying. It's like their mere presence triggers an internal alarm in others, making them question everything about their lives. And it's not because they're going around preaching some deep philosophy or trying to convert anyone to their way of thinking. It's simply because they live so authentically that it forces others to confront the fact that they might not be. This is what I mean by promoting existential anxiety. When you see a Sigma female, you're not just seeing a person. You're seeing someone who operates on their own terms, who's crafted a life that's entirely theirs. They're not swayed by trends, social expectations, or the opinions of others. That kind of self-possession is rare, and it makes people uncomfortable because it shines a spotlight on the compromises they've made just to fit in. The unsettling part is that Sigma females don't even have to say a word to make you feel this way. Just watching them do their thing is enough to stir up all those buried thoughts about whether you're really living the life you want or just the one you've settled for. It's like being around someone who's figured out a secret you didn't even know existed, and it makes you question why you've been following the rules all along. People hate what they don't understand, and Sigma females, they're like a living, breathing question mark. They don't fit into the usual categories, and they don't play by the usual rules, which makes them a constant source of low-key panic for those who do. Instead of facing the uncomfortable truth that maybe they're not as free as they thought, it's easier to project that discomfort onto the Sigma female. So she ends up being labeled as too intense, too different, or even too weird, when in reality she's just too real for a world that thrives on illusions. Number 6. Unequal sharing of attention. When a Sigma female walks into a room, she has this magnetic energy that naturally draws attention, even when she's not trying to. But here's the catch. She doesn't care about being the center of attention, and that drives people absolutely crazy. It's like everyone's competing in some unspoken popularity contest. And she's not only ignoring the game, but also winning without even entering. That's the kind of power that makes others uneasy. This unequal sharing of attention isn't something she orchestrates. It just happens. While others might be vying for the spotlight, she's perfectly content in her own world, doing her own thing. But because she's so unapologetically herself, people can't help but be drawn to her. It's that effortless charisma, the kind that you can't fake or force, that gets under people's skin. They don't understand how someone who seems so disinterested in social approval can still command so much of it. And that's where the resentment kicks in. Those who've spent years mastering the art of people-pleasing, of saying all the right things and playing all the right roles, suddenly find themselves overshadowed by someone who's not even playing the same game. It's like they're running on a treadmill, working up a sweat, and she's casually strolling by, getting all the attention without breaking a sweat. That's enough to make anyone frustrated. But the Sigma female isn't in it for the accolades, and that's what people find most infuriating. She doesn't need their approval or validation, and that makes her immune to the usual social pressures that keep everyone else in line. So while they're busy trying to figure out how to capture the same attention she naturally attracts, she's already moved on to the next thing, leaving them stewing in their envy and confusion. And that's the paradox. The more she doesn't care, the more attention she gets. And the more attention she gets, the more people wish she'd just disappear. Number 7. Unconventional problem solving. Sigma females approach problems like a game of chess, thinking several moves ahead while everyone else is still figuring out the rules. They don't solve issues in the conventional step-by-step way that most people are used to. Instead, they see the whole board, all the possible outcomes, and then make a move that no one saw coming. This unconventional problem solving can be both impressive and unsettling to those around them. Here's the thing. Most people are comfortable with the familiar, the predictable. They've been trained to approach challenges in a certain way, following the same old formulas that have been passed down through generations. But a Sigma female? She's not interested in following anyone else's playbook. She's the kind of person who, when faced with a locked door, doesn't waste time looking for the key. She's already out back, climbing through a window or finding a completely different way in that no one even considered. This ability to think outside the box, to find solutions where others see dead ends, can make people uncomfortable. It challenges the status quo and forces everyone to reconsider their own approach to problem solving. It's like watching someone solve a Rubik's Cube in seconds while you're still struggling to match two sides. You can't help but feel a mix of awe and frustration. But what really gets under people's skin is how effortlessly she seems to do it. It's not just that she finds unique solutions. It's that she does it with such ease, as if she's operating on a different wavelength. This disrupts the social dynamic, especially in environments where following the rules is the norm. Her ability to sidestep obstacles that would stump others doesn't just make people envious, it makes them question their own limitations. And let's be honest, no one likes being reminded that they might not be as clever as they think. So while some might admire her ingenuity from a distance, others will quietly seethe, wishing they could dismiss her methods as luck or a fluke. But deep down, they know that's not the case. She's just operating on a different level, one that they're not sure how to reach, and that's a hard pill to swallow. Number 8. Relentless Drive. Sigma females have a relentless drive that's both inspiring and terrifying to those around them. It's like they're powered by some internal engine that never runs out of fuel. While others might talk about their dreams or dabble in their goals, a Sigma female is already halfway down the road, full speed ahead, with no plans of slowing down. And that's where the tension starts to build. This kind of drive isn't just about working hard, it's about being utterly unstoppable. Sigma females don't just set goals, they practically obliterate them. They don't wait around for the perfect moment or ask for permission to pursue what they want. They just go for it, with a focus so intense it makes people wonder if they're part machine. And that's what unnerves people. While others are still trying to muster up the motivation to get out of bed, she's already conquered half the day and is on to her next challenge. What makes her drive so intimidating is how it exposes the gaps in everyone else's efforts. It's like having that one friend who runs marathons for fun while you're still trying to convince yourself to hit the gym. Her sheer determination forces people to confront the reality that maybe they're not pushing themselves as hard as they could be. And let's be honest, no one likes to be outpaced, especially by someone who doesn't seem to break a sweat. But the real kicker? She's not doing it to impress anyone. Her drive is entirely self-motivated, fueled by her own ambitions and standards. She's not competing with anyone else because, frankly, she doesn't see the point. She's in a race against herself, always pushing to be better, stronger, smarter. And that's the part that really gets under people's skin. It's hard enough to keep up with someone when you're in the same race, but when they're playing an entirely different game, it's downright infuriating. So, while some might look at her relentless drive with admiration, others will feel a mix of envy and frustration, because deep down they know they'll never be able to match her pace. And that's a tough realization to face, especially when she's not even looking back to see if anyone's trying to catch up. Number 9. Paradoxical Presence. Sigma females possess a paradoxical presence that's almost like a magic trick, captivating and confounding at the same time. They can blend into the background one moment, only to suddenly be the center of attention the next. And it's all done with a casual ease that makes people wonder if they've missed a trick somewhere. It's not about making grand entrances or dominating conversations. It's about having a presence so magnetic and mysterious that it makes everyone sit up and take notice, even if they're not quite sure why. This paradoxical nature is what makes them so intriguing. They have this effortless way of slipping in and out of social circles without breaking a sweat, like a chameleon who can change its color without anyone noticing. One minute they're just quietly observing, the next they've captured everyone's attention with a few well-chosen words or actions. It's like they have a secret playbook that no one else has seen, and they're the only ones who know how to use it. What makes this presence so perplexing is how it disrupts the usual social dynamics. In a world where people are used to being predictable and easily categorized, Sigma females defy easy labeling. They don't fit into the roles that everyone else is comfortable with, and that makes them both fascinating and frustrating. They're not trying to steal the spotlight or prove anything. They're simply being themselves in a way that defies conventional expectations. This ability to be both present and elusive creates an atmosphere of intrigue. People find themselves drawn to them, trying to figure out what makes them tick, while simultaneously feeling a little on edge because they can't quite pin them down. It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Fascinating, but ultimately impossible. And that's the paradox. They're simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. And that kind of presence is enough to make anyone feel a bit unsettled. Please, m'ladies, share this video with friends and family to signal the algorithm to push our content further. Like and leave your comments below. Thanks, Jules, for watching. See you in the next video. Bye for now and God bless.